fresh on the track up at state. And I'm bringing to you live my boys Alec and Nate, Tequila Ty, JNELLY and Zillin in the building. So kick it back, pour the drink. We chillin' because I'm boozing and betting and ballin' like I'm 2-6 in the blue kicks. Watch me move quick. Yeah, this the blueprint. So who's getting involved? Welcome into the show. This is Booze, Bets, and Ball, baby.
And welcome in to Booze, Bets, and Ball. We are doing the college football season preview today. We're excited about this. We're back. Took a break because we knew our next couple episodes were going to be longer, so it was better to not do one last week. But it's going to be a good one. It's going to be in two parts, actually, because I have Nate on one night, then I have JNELLY and Tyler on the next. So it's going to be in one episode, but I'll probably be wearing a different shirt halfway through this. So just so you know, that's going to happen. But Nate, you ready to do this? It's going to be a good one.
Go. This is exciting. We're almost there. 16 days from Penn State football.
Yeah. That's the thing about being on a Thursday. It's come up quicker than you want it to in a way. I don't know.
So next
gonna be fun.
2 weeks from now, Wednesday will be like Friday for us. So
yeah,
life will be far less miserable than it normally is on a given week. So yeah, perfect.
Yeah, that'll be good. So we are recording this on on Tuesday the 16th. Yesterday, the AP poll dropped for the preseason. I'm going to read it off quick. I do not have a graphic for this one, but Alabama was 1. That really doesn't surprise anyone. Ohio State 2, the defending champs Georgia 3, Clemson 4, Notre Dame 5, A&M 6, Utah 7, Michigan 8, Oklahoma 9, Baylor 10, Oregon 11, Oklahoma State 12, North Carolina State 13, USC 14, Michigan State 15, Miami 16, Pitt 17, Wisconsin 18, Arkansas 19, Kentucky 20, Ole Miss 21, Wake Forest 22, Cincinnati 23, Houston 24, and BYU 25.
Yeah, that was a lot of reading. You did a good job though. But some surprises, I guess, we'll talk about, right? I mean, nothing really at the top. If you thought that the top 3 would have been anything other than Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia in some order, you haven't been paying attention at all for the last 10 years of college football.
That's true.
But beyond that, there's some stuff. What do you want to talk about first?
Yeah, so we're going to get into, we each picked 2 teams that we were higher on than the poll was higher on. So I have a nice little screenshot graphic for you guys to look at here if you're watching on YouTube. So we each got 2 teams. I have Tennessee and Minnesota. Nate has Penn State and Texas. None of these teams were ranked. Tennessee received the most votes of any unranked team, I'm pretty sure, and then Penn State was, I think, 4th. And then Minnesota and Texas also received votes. I'm going to start with Tennessee for me. Just the fact that Hendon Hooker's back, I think, does a lot for that team. Borderline Heisman candidate at quarterback. Really, this isn't kind of the Tennessee teams we've seen from the past couple, 10 years or so. I think they actually have a chance to make some noise. I mean, they averaged almost 40 points a game last year, and they returned a lot of the talent on that offense, including 4 offensive linemen. And they're healthy, too. I think they were kind of banged up on defense last year. I think they're a little healthier. I don't think they're going to, be a legit challenge for the SEC title, but I do like them to maybe win 9, possibly 10 games.
In the division, though, I mean, I'm looking who Kentucky's ranked in the division, and that is, where's Florida? I don't see Florida's not here.
No, Florida's not ranked either.
So you got South Carolina receiving votes. Tennessee, like you said, is 26th. Oh, Florida's receiving votes. They got 14 votes. So the SEC East is pretty wide open. So I like that one. I think, with what they have returning on offense. The only game I really watched of them last year was the Kentucky game, which was a hell of a shootout. Yeah. So I think that's a good one. Yeah. And, the SEC East may be a little bit weaker. I don't know who's on their crossover schedule. Do you know?
I'd have to look. I did not really look into their schedule too much because I wasn't looking at them in terms of who I thought was going to win a conference. I didn't really check out the schedule, but
Yeah, but just for rankings and things, right? To have them
yeah.
move up or down the rankings, I'd be curious.
See if I can find it quick. Well, I'm gonna keep looking for that. But to move on really quick with Minnesota, I did just want to say they went 9-4 last year, and they lost their number one running back halfway through the first game of the year, and then they lost their number two running back, I think 4 or 5 games into the year. And they were a pretty banged up team on offense. So I think if they come back healthy, those guys are back. I do like them to maybe win 10, 11 games, maybe 11, 10, but I think they could win 10 games this year.
So if they win 10, they're losing to Penn State, hopefully, right? And then somebody like Wisconsin or Iowa or one of those. Today, I think, I'm pretty sure it was this morning, maybe it was yesterday. No, it was definitely yesterday. I saw the Big Ten Network guys were at the Minnesota practice, and every unit that they talked about them like they were the greatest team that they've ever seen. And you combine the running backs and Chris Otton-Bell, and then the offensive line who's returning one starter, but somehow they look the part, and the Penn State offensive line does not get any respect, returning 3 starters or so. So I'm a little bit more concerned about Minnesota. I think, that's a very good pick. And, they got Kirk Soraka back as offensive coordinator, who the last time he was there in 2019 with Tanner Morgan, the same quarterback OC combination, they lit it up, right? So this could come back, and that whiteout game suddenly looks a little scarier than it did before to me. But
yeah.
So very good. Those are very good picks. Very solid picks there. I feel embarrassed about my picks now.
All right. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So I'll start with Penn State. I mean, look, we're going to get into the conference championship predictions and things. I think that they're being underrated. Sure, they're the 4th team outside the top 25, but people really forget how good they were before Sean Clifford got hurt last year. And I know that's the excuse that always comes up, but they were a top 5, top 10 team, and were absolutely lighting it up more or less offensively. And then Sean Clifford goes out and everything falls apart. And, I think the outside media probably looks at him coming back and playing against Illinois and not missing any games besides just the one against Rutgers and saying, oh, see, Penn State stinks. But that was half of a quarterback that they had last year. And that is really not representative of who he is or who this team is. They have tons of weapons on offense. I think the offensive line is going to be really good. And as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, on defense, there are, maybe with the exception of middle linebacker, almost no holes, and they're going to be a top 5 unit in the country easily. So I like them a lot better than the polls like them personally. Anything to add there? All we're going to do is talk about Penn State for the next 12 weeks. So, you're dead horse.
I mean, next week we're going to do a strict Penn State preview. Yeah. So we're going to get into that. But I mean, I do think there was definitely an argument to rank them. I'm okay with them not being ranked, but I definitely, I think they could have been if you looked at pre-injury Sean Clifford Penn State.
And there are plenty of other teams who I could have chosen for this, but I felt like I had to pick them because of things we're going to talk about in 15 minutes from now. And then the other one I got is UT of the Texas variety. So we both picked the UTs. I like because if nothing else, I mean, they're bringing back Bijan Robinson, who is top 10 Heisman candidate and is easily the number 1 running back, I think, in the country. You bring in Quinn Ewers from Ohio State, transferring, who somehow is 50 to 1 to win the Heisman too, and a lot of offensive weapons. And I think they absolutely underperformed last year. They, in the AP poll, are just behind Tennessee in receiving votes. Somehow in the coaches poll, though, they are ranked. They're ranked 18th in the coaches poll and got 1 first place vote. So I don't know who the hell that was, but that guy, that he deserves to be fired. So I think they'll improve on their 5-7 season from last year. I think that the Big 12 is a little more wide open, and yeah, if they're going to go bowling, I think they finish in the top 4 or 5 in the conference. If nothing, for no other reason than the offense is going to be really fantastic and has awesome skill players.
Yeah, I mean, I see that. I think there's a lot of questions with Tennessee, but the talent's there, at least for them to make some noise. So there are teams that we liked more, but there's also the opposite to go to, which to me, this was a little easier to pick. I don't know about you, but for me, teams that I like a lot less than the AP poll here. So I have Notre Dame and Texas A&M, and Nate has Clemson and Oklahoma. I'm going to keep it very brief on these two teams. For me, it's just Notre Dame, first-year quarterback, first-year head coach. Their offensive skill position does not scare anyone. It just doesn't. Michael Mayer is a great tight end. They don't have enough speed on the outside, though, at receiver. They play Ohio State and Clemson and a couple other. I think they play USC too. They play a lot of athletic teams, and they also lack a lot of talent on the back end and the secondary. Kyle Hamilton's gone. Their cornerbacks are a question mark. I just don't really see it when they're playing a couple of high-flying offenses this year. I think those games could get ugly for them. For me with Texas A&M, I think they're an incredibly talented roster. Mm-hmm. I just think this is a year early to go into this, because this recruiting class that we talk about, they're all true freshmen, and a lot of their other impact guys are just sophomores or redshirt freshmen. I feel like this time next year, I would be totally okay with this, but I just feel like the number 6 spot right now is just a little premature for them. That's kind of just where I'm at with them.
Yeah, I think 2023, you watch out for Texas A&M, and I'm pretty sure that next year's championship game is in Houston, so an A&M championship game in Houston would be something.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, and I like both of those picks too. I think those teams are, well, A&M or Notre Dame is probably a year too late, and A&M is maybe a year too early to justify the ranking that they have. And A&M, the SEC West, again, obviously is stacked, and they're going to lose a couple of games. They will not finish 6th in the country. No. For my team, I got, 2 teams that are somewhat related when it comes to this, because you got Clemson, who comes into the season in the AP ranked 4th, indicating that they think they're a playoff team, right? They are one of the top 4 teams in the country. I don't see it. I mean, if you look at their situation last year, as much as we want DJ Uiagalelei to be successful, he, just did not have the season that you expect from a Clemson quarterback. And maybe they turned to Cade Klubnik earlier than you might expect otherwise. But the offense last year scored, 3 points against Georgia, 21 against NC State, 17 against Pitt. They scored 30 against South Carolina and 48 against Wake Forest, but not as explosive as you would have come to remember the playoff caliber Clemson teams. And I think they, maybe they win 10 games or something, but that's still, that's a little bit lower than them finishing top 4. And I don't expect them to win the ACC. And then Oklahoma, I say they're related, obviously, because Brett Venables is now the OU coach. And Oklahoma coming into the season 8th in a, reasonably challenging, I guess, conference with Baylor and Oklahoma State as well. Bringing in Dylan Gabriel as quarterback, bringing in a very defensive-minded coach to a conference that defense is not really known there. So how can, it's like Mike Leach going to the SEC with a super high-power offense into a more defensive conference. Like it's tough to adapt the conference that way. So I think that while they will be good in time, I don't see them winning the conference or them finishing in the top 10 this year, just because of the total amount of change and turnover that they've had. It's going to take a little while for them to get going. So, losing Caleb Williams and Spencer Rattler, you would have wanted to keep Spencer Rattler, I think, in hindsight, but they bring in the transfer and we'll see how they do, but I don't see them finishing top 10.
No, neither do I, and I think we're going to get into this next. This was a big reason why I didn't pick them to win their conference. Was I just feel like it's a lot of turnover very quick, and it's also a reason why I didn't pick USC either. I just feel like those two schools, a lot going on, a lot very fast. Just it doesn't always click right away. Is kind of the way I looked at it.
And that's a good point, though. I think, however, like I have more faith in Lincoln Riley, who was a head coach at Oklahoma. He's bringing in a quarterback he knows. I have more faith in USC being successful than Brent Venables, who's not been a head coach before and kind of starting his system anew with people who he doesn't know. I think Lincoln Riley has a better chance of leading, say, USC to the Pac-12 title than Oklahoma winning the Big 12 title.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. So we're going to move on to our Power 5 conference champion predictions. So I have Clemson, who you just ripped apart. Ohio State. I'm messing. I know. Ohio State, Baylor, Utah, Alabama. You have NC State, Penn State, Baylor, Oregon, Alabama. So we only agree on 2 here. Really quick, my thing on Clemson. I just, even if DJU struggles, Clay Klubnik is right there. I feel to swipe in, take the job if needed. I like Will Shipley. They returned 4 offensive linemen, I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm. And the truth is they have the best defensive line in the country. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's remotely close, even though Xavier Thomas is rumored to be missing 6 weeks. I don't know if that's 6 weeks from today or 6 weeks of the season. I don't know if that was specified. But even without him, there's a lot of talent there. I just feel like up front, on both sides of the ball, they're pretty strong. And the thing I looked at on their schedule was NC State game, Miami game, home. They're both home. Yeah. So I just feel like that's going to give them a huge boost. So I kind of have them by default, I'd say, just because I think they have those 2 big games at home. That's really going to help them. Ohio State, there's not a lot to say. I mean, it's Ohio State. We're going to get into it in a second because we're going to go into the playoff. But I really like that squad a lot, especially offensively. But I wanted to go to Baylor. 12-2 last year. They did lose a lot at some positions. I think receiver they lost a bit. Defense, the middle they lost. But like we just talked about, the Big 12 is in some turmoil right now. A lot of teams with change, a lot of changeover. I just feel like they're kind of like the steady ship. So I do like them to repeat. Utah's another school I'm going to get into in a little bit, but I like a lot about what they have. Kind of like an old school team. They're heavy on the tight ends. Run the ball a lot. I'll be interested to see how they play against like the USC spread offenses. And then finally, Alabama, kind of same thing as Ohio State. Bryce Young, Will Anderson on defense. That's pretty much enough said there for that one for me.
Yeah, I have nothing to say about Alabama. Just the fact that they lost last year, I think, I don't know. That Nick Saban is good at motivating after a loss and things like that. So I'd pencil them in or pen them in right now to win the SEC. Going back to the ACC, I like NC State. So yeah, maybe they play Clemson away, which is tough, but. Out of conference schedule, and I know this doesn't matter, but it gets them started. They start with East Carolina, and then Charleston Southern, and then Texas Tech, and then UConn before Clemson. So they won't really be tested before Clemson, but they also won't be beat up before they play Clemson. So maybe that's some goodness for them. They get Virginia Tech at home, and then I don't know. Their only other tough game, I guess, is North Carolina. Florida State, maybe. I don't know. So their schedule is very, very easy. So if they, on October 1st, beat Clemson, they ought to cruise to the ACC title game. They returned 17 starters, most in any team in the ACC. Devin Leary last year, 35 TDs, 5 interceptions, and they bring back Peyton Wilson and Drake Thomas at linebacker. So, and I just want them to win. I don't know. Like, they're one of those underdog programs that has been – they've been kind of hanging around 9 wins, maybe sometimes 10 wins, but really hasn't broken out. And it'd be cool to see them at least make it to the championship game this year. Big 12, we talked about it a little bit. I think Baylor, it's kind of wide open at the top. And, especially with Oklahoma being more down, not down necessarily, but in a little bit of flux, you might as well just go with the team that won it last year. So Baylor returning a bunch of starters. But also, has that winning pedigree to them. Last year's Big 12 title game was fantastic. I like Oregon in the Pac-12. I was between Oregon and Utah. Utah had a great year last year, made it to the Rose Bowl, played a tough game, or at least for the first half, I guess, against Ohio State. But the Ducks are good. They bring back 14 starters. They got a new coach, so they have a little bit of turnover too. But having such a pack of returning starters is good for them. They play Utah and UCLA at home and don't play USC. So, they're the Pac-12 North, maybe is a little bit weaker. They ought to win that going away because projected by Athlon, the second place team is Oregon State, who last year was 7-6, I guess. So, not the toughest division in college football for them. So you return a bunch of starters and you get a favorable crossover schedule. Let's go Ducks. I also like that. And then Big Ten. I want Penn State to be good. The easy thing, the cop out would be obviously to pick Ohio State or Michigan, but oh God, do I not want that to happen so much? I know. Yeah. So I have faith, I guess, as much as anything.
Okay. Really quick, I did miss one note on Baylor. They returned their 2 deep on the defensive line from last year, which I think is super important to keep guys on the D-line fresh. It's something Manny Diaz just talked about with Penn State too. So, I mean, that is something that is a key factor for them too. So I like that team a little bit. I think they're going to make some noise this year. I think the Big 12 is the conference that gets left out of the playoff. We're going to talk about that right now, but I still like them to have a pretty good season considering. Oh, there it is.
We got one match.
Oh yeah, we only got one. Yeah, so as I guess I kind of alluded to my 4 there, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, Utah. I don't have too much more to add on these. I do like Ohio State, honestly, the most out of these teams. I just think Stroud with Jackson Smith, Njigba, and now Marvin Harrison Jr. I like that duo. And I also think, the fact that they have Travion Henderson, I think that's something that Ohio State has kind of missed since Zeke helped them win that title back in 2014. They haven't had that bell cow. You look at that guy, wow, he can be, a 5-6 year starter in the NFL. I feel like that's something that's been missing. I think having that now kind of brings back Ohio State to what they were when they were at the very top. So that's I'm going to give them a nod there for that. And honestly, their D-line, there's 5 stars everywhere. Not a ton of experience right now, but I just think there's enough talent there for them to be good. And then my question with Alabama is just replacing John Mechie and Jamison Williams, 2 guys that were over 1,000 yards receiving last year. I think Alabama is going to go back more to what they were early in the Saban era, where it was play great defense and then just have the best running back on the planet. They got that Jahmyr Gibbs from Georgia Tech, the transfer. And then I think they have the best defensive end duo in the country with Will Anderson and what's his name, Dallas Turner? Yes, Dallas Turner. So I'm going to give them the nod. I think they're there. Clemson, I like I said, that's just kind of like a default for me. I just feel like having those 2 big ACC games home, they're going to win the conference. Kind of helping them out that way, being ahead, and then win the ACC conference game. So I think they slip in, but they're honestly my 4 seed. And then with Utah, kind of like I said, Cam Rising back, I like a lot. I like they have a nice running back in what's his name? Tavion Thomas, 21 touchdowns last year. That's a lot. And their entire interior line's back. And if you watch that Rose Bowl, they belonged on the field with Ohio State. So I really do think they have what it takes to make the playoff.
Those are those are good picks. And I don't know, you make a compelling case certainly about Ohio State. Travion Henderson is, he was fantastic last year, and it came so fast, right? Like it's just those guys, they bring guys and they're amazing. Alabama though, they did score 2 very, I think, capable transfer wide receivers in Tyler Harrell and Jermaine Burton, right, from Georgia. So it's not like, they're replacing really top tier starters, but at the same time, it's not like they're bringing true freshmen in. So I look for them to be okay. And I blacked out 5 minutes ago when I was thinking about who was going to win the SEC East because I forgot about Georgia. So
I was looking at the schedule. I was like, wait a second.
So Georgia probably just loses to Alabama in the championship game, and you get them for the third time in 4 years, both of them making or whatever it is, right? So
Yeah.
that's a safe pick. I mean, that's the safest pick in Ohio State to win the Big Ten. So I've got two teams missing out. I've got my ACC champ, North Carolina State, and Baylor missing out on the playoff because Penn State, in my mind, is going to win the Big Ten, and they're not going to get screwed out of it like they did in 2016. And again, this is all pure hope and faith, and just wanting to have fun this fall. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
No, I got you there. So Oregon too is just kind of what you said earlier.
They're going to win. Yeah, like I think the Pac-12. Except for the 1 year Washington got left out, I think 2016 as well, right? They or no, 20. When did they? Maybe not. So the Pac-12 tends to be ranked, I think, about third in the kind of the conference power rankings behind the SEC and the Big Ten, right?
Right.
So I think if one of Oregon or Utah is 11-1 or 12-0 going into or if they're both 11-1, say at worst going into the championship game, whoever wins is going to make the playoff. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's just kind of the default of putting it in that order.
I see that. Do you have a pick on a title winner out of that? Do you have a favorite? No.
It's like everything else. I was just pick Alabama, right? So
all right.
Alabama plays Oregon in the semifinals and kicks their ass, and Penn State plays Georgia in a rematch of the 1982 Sugar Bowl, which is the year after Georgia won the national championship. So there's some symmetry there, but then Penn State can't hang with Alabama, and we are slightly disappointed with the end of the year.
That would be I'd go for that. That'd be fun. All right. That would be a good one. And finally, what we're gonna do here, we're just gonna do Heisman because why not? I got Braylon Allen, the Wisconsin sophomore running back. Nate has Bryce Young in a repeat of the Heisman. I think was Johnny Football the last. No, he didn't win two, right?
He didn't win two. He made
no. Who was the last repeat? I can't think. Was it T?
See, I think
I can't remember now. I should have. It didn't even dawn on me that he was going for the repeat beforehand, so I didn't look it up. But I don't know. I'll look it up in a second. But me with Allen, Pence when
Archie
we played.
Griffith. Archie Griffin was the only one. So
there we go.
Yeah, Tebow made the finals a couple of times in a row.
That's right? What I thought. Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. For me with Allen, when Penn State played Wisconsin at the beginning of the year, he was like third string. Like I think he got maybe 2 carries in that game, if that. We did not really see him. And then kind of right after the Penn State game, he exploded. I mean, he finished the year with over 1,200 yards, almost averaged 7 yards a carry with 12 TDs. And I just think the fact that it's the second year, he's going into the season as the bell cow back. And I think Wisconsin realized that Graham Mertz, ain't it. They need to run the ball more. They did lose, I think, Danny Davis, their top receiver from last year. They're just not a team that reloads at receiver right away like Ohio State can. So I do think they're going to rely on the running game a lot more. And I just think that because of that and their offensive line and the way they play ball, that he can get close to 2,000 yards this year, maybe a 2,000-yard, 20 touchdown year. And I think I kind of have him. I think he's a little bit of a dark horse, but he's who I'm going with.
Right. So
yeah,
drops $10 on him, you win 600. So that's pretty good. It's a good pick. It is a good dark horse pick, and he is he likes to troll Penn State on Twitter, right? And he did some power clean that was a little bit higher than Saquon, so he put that out there, and he does some of those things. So I don't like him, but man, he was so good last year, right? As the season went on, and he is everything we want Nick Singleton to be this year, right? But he's also everything that Travion Henderson was last year too. And I get the fact that, like you're saying, Travion Henderson has CJ Stroud and the world's best wide receiver, so he's not going to get as many carries, and Braylon Allen could just be that guy that gets 30+ carries a game and is 80% of the Wisconsin offense. So but I'm going to be stupid here. Who's the last running back to win the Heisman?
Derrick Henry?
Yeah, so what was that, 6-7 years ago?
Yeah.
And it seems like now it's almost a foregone conclusion that the best quarterback in the country, or the best quarterback for the year is going to win it, right? Like, let's see. Sorry, this is it is Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
But just I don't know. Like, running backs make the finals now, and they get invited to New York. But there's a reason that C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, DJ Ugalele, Will Anderson, Dylan Gabriel are the top 6 people off the board or in odds. And the first running back isn't until 7, and that's Travion Henderson, who's plus 4,000 compared to plus 200 for C.J. Stroud and plus 400 for Bryce Young. So the odds fall off really heavily, right? So that's as much as anything why I picked Bryce Young here again, because I don't want to pick C.J. Stroud for anything. I don't want to pick Ohio State for anything. But when it comes to weapons, when it comes to stats, he is probably going to be – C.J. Stroud's probably going to be the top quarterback statistically. But if they don't make the playoff because Penn State wins the Big Ten, then it's going to go to Bryce Young, who wins the national championship.
Yeah, and I stayed away from the Ohio State guys too, because just the fact that there's 3 of them, I feel like no one's gonna pick one of the 3. I feel like everyone's gonna be like, they're all too important to that team. It's hard for a voter to pick one. I feel like most voters are just gonna stay away from that situation altogether, really.
Yeah. I saw somewhere on Twitter somebody picked Quinn Ewers plus 5,000. I don't know what I'll do. I will do something ridiculous on this podcast if Quinn Ewers wins the Heisman Trophy, though, right? Like,
we'll have to figure it out.
As good as I want them to be, because they are my underrated pick right now. There's no freaking way that dude's winning the Heisman in his freshman year. I'm sorry, because it's the same thing as C.J. Stroud and Travion Henderson. Like, he's got the best back in the country in his backfield in Bijan Robinson, so they're going to split it, right? So. Please, for the love of God, don't pick. Spencer Radler plus 8,000, just going down the list here. Bo Nix, this is the year. He's relaxed and comfortable, is plus 10,000. Looking for Sean Clifford plus 12,000. Sean Clifford is plus 12,000. On the page here are Stetson Bennett, Phil Jerkovic, and Cade Klubnik, and Michael Penix Jr. Out of Stetson Bennett, Cade Klubnik, Michael Penix Jr., Phil Jerkovic, and Sean Clifford, rank those guys in terms of odds for the Heisman, do you think?
I want to say Jerkovic has the highest.
No.
He does not?
No, he is tied with Clifford at plus 12,000.
Oh, wow.
Stetson Bennett is plus 10,000, and then Cade Klubnik, who...
A backup.
A backup who is plus 10,000, has better odds to win the Heisman than Sean Clifford.
Wow. Okay.
So there you go. So, and Michael Penix still at 15,000.
Where's Michael Penix playing? He's not still at Indiana.
He is not, but I don't know.
I have no idea where he is.
But get in on those odds because let's see. Michael Penix is with Washington. That's a good spot for him if he can stay healthy. Yeah, that's a good. I do like him, right? Like I root for him. He just always got hurt. The 2020 game where he was down before the goal line of the 2-point conversion really sucks. But I want him to be successful, especially if he's playing at Washington now.
Yeah, really quick. I just thought of this. So there was this offseason, there was a lot of big coach movement. We got Brian Kelly to LSU, and then Freeman takes over for him at Notre Dame. Obviously, Lincoln Riley goes to USC, and then Venables takes his job at Oklahoma, and then our guy Brent Pry to Virginia Tech, and then Mario Cristobal to Miami, and Dan Lanning to Oregon. Which one of these guys do you think fares the best, maybe this year and then long term at those jobs?
I think my answer is the same for both, and I think it's Lincoln Riley.
Okay.
Well, just because the talent that he has there right now, especially with Caleb Williams as the starting quarterback, is going to be fantastic for them. And then long term, if he makes USC what USC can be and what USC was in 2000 to 2005 with Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart and Carson Palmer and Lendale White and all of those guys. I mean, they can be a powerhouse, and they have unlimited money, right? Like the area has unlimited money. So he's my pick. How about you?
I this year, I think I'm going to go with Lincoln Riley and USC for this year, just because I think of all the talent they brought in. But long term, I actually do like Cristobal in Miami, just because if you can dominate, if they can get back to dominating the Miami region recruiting, they're going to be very hard to stop. And now with NIL, the stuff they got in trouble with back in 2001, 2002, whenever that was, that booster is now very legal to do.
Right.
So I do think that they have a chance to build a super powerhouse down there in a conference that really just has Clemson, who has been teetering. Yeah. So I could see them maybe they're not the best team out of that bunch, but I think they'll have the most success because of those other variables that the other teams can't control. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the same thing about both of those. And let me just make this point before I am not contradicting myself by saying that I think USC is going to be better this year than Oregon, who I picked to win the Pac-12. Right. USC was 4-8 last year, and if they get to 8-4 or 9-3, that is a pretty big bump. Whereas if Oregon, who was 9-3 last year, gets to 11-1 and makes the playoffs, I mean that's a smaller relative bump. So that's why I'm picking them. But those situations are very similar, where you have a regional power in the southeast of Miami and then in the west coast of USC that really is ripe for the taking for each school, right? And they are traditionally powerful. So like you're saying, if Cristobal can really get the NIL game going there, and the same thing with Lincoln Riley, you can have sort of juggernaut programs for a long time that are separated a little bit from Alabama and separated a little bit from Oklahoma and Ohio State, right? So you can have those will be the 4 teams plus probably Georgia who make the playoffs for the next 25 years straight, no matter what the format is. So
yeah, I see that.
We got that to look forward to. So that's cool.
Yeah, this is going to be a interesting year because after this year, not after this year, but this is one of the last 2, I guess, seasons of college football, the way things are right now, with all the movement that's going to happen in a couple of years with USC and UCLA, the Big Ten, Texas and Oklahoma, the SEC, and I'm sure more is going to happen after this year as well. So, and new TV deals do apparently no Big Ten and ESPN games anymore. So, there's a lot changing in college football. So this is going to be an interesting season to watch. So we're going to end this part here. I'm going to come back at some point with JNELLY's going to give us some good bets. He's got some dark horse Heisman guys. He's got over-under on some win totals. So we're going to do that. We'll be back. But thanks, Nate, for coming on to do our preview. It was fun.
Yep. We'll talk next week. Have a good one.
All right. And as promised, we're back with the second half of the show. Nate's traveling. As I mentioned, I would have a different shirt on. I do. JNELLY's here, so we could talk some betting for the regular season of college football. Excited to do that. Yep. All right. So we're gonna start with some win totals. I have all the win totals here from, I don't know what the website is, but they're from DraftKings. Apparently these totals. So I went through, and I wanted to find a couple interesting ones you thought about. So how about this? Michigan State won, was it 10 regular season games last year? I believe it was 10 or 11.
Yeah, I think so. They were 10-2.
Yeah, and their win total for this year is only 7.5. You like the over or the under for that?
They got a lot of people in the transfer portal, but they lost. Who they lose? They lost Kenneth Walker.
And Naylor, one of the receivers, is gone. Naylor, I think.
I mean, I have them losing to us for sure. Ohio State. Do they play? I'm pretty sure they play like us, Ohio State, Michigan, right? Every year.
Well, yeah, they would have to. Yeah.
Well, can't you?
I don't know what they're.
Like, which team on the East you play? Like, I know Illinois doesn't play us all the time, do they?
Well, Michigan State's in the East.
Okay, whatever. Either way, I would say I'll take over. I think they can get 8 wins.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. If it'll load for me, but their schedule does not. I mean, they play Western Michigan, Akron, at Washington, which I think they'll win that game. For
That's
Minnesota
good.
at home. Minnesota's a good team, but they have them at home. At Maryland. So I think they could realistically start 5-0, and then they have Wisconsin
Yeah,
at
5-4.
home. Yeah, I see them honestly getting probably 9 wins here because they play Rutgers, Indiana, Illinois.
Yeah, they should
Yeah, I see
Yeah.
them going over.
Unless
Yeah. Yeah, unless something crazy happens.
Yeah.
I think that's a low number for them. Let's see, I had another one that was really good. Oklahoma is also at 9.5. A lot of turnover there. New coach, new quarterback, pretty much a whole new roster for the most part. That one, I don't know. That like the Big 12.
9.5.
Yeah, the Big 12 is not. I'll
Yeah.
read off their schedule. It'll come up. This is slow.
I mean, they lost all their weapons.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
they're
this is
all
they're a little thin at some spots. I mean, they play UTEP, Kent State, at Nebraska, Kansas State, TCU, Texas, Kansas, Iowa State, Baylor, West Virginia, Oklahoma State at home, and then Texas Tech.
like, yeah, I
I
don't
think
they're
they
going
could
to be
get to
a
10.
good team, but they're still going to probably get 10 wins because that schedule is so easy.
Yeah,
I mean, they got
I like
that.
them over there too.
They got that one quarterback, Gabriel Dillon, I think.
Dylan Gabriel. Yeah.
Yeah, he'll
Yeah.
be pretty good. But yeah, I
Yeah.
guess
So
they're
I like
average
them over
this-
too.
Texas is going to do good this year, I think.
Texas. So Texas at 8.5. You like that over?
Yeah, I like the over. I mean, they did lose their one wide receiver is like out for the year now. Their
I did see that.
transfer.
Yeah.
So that's going to hurt them, but I still think they win the conference.
Yeah. I mean, they do play Bama out of conference, which doesn't help. And then they have
Well, yeah.
Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Baylor. So the thing that they play Alabama is they pretty much have an automatic loss out of conference.
Start the season.
Yeah, I mean, so that
Right?
8.5
Is that
trick.
week
Yeah,
1 or week 2?
it's week 2, I think. Week 2.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean
Either way.
that's a tricky one, I
Yeah.
think, because 8.5 feels like a good number for them, honestly.
Yeah, and it's
Oh.
Texas, so like they have the players, but they could still not win.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I could see that. What else we got on here? Florida at 7. I was in a Twitter space last night, and some guy said they were going 6-6, and a Florida fan in there like totally freaked out on him and like named all the reasons why they won't. Their number is exactly 7. I think they get 7.
yeah.
That number feels spot on to me.
I mean, it's SEC, so their schedule is definitely like they could easily have 5 losses. I'm like,
Yeah,
who
and
do
they
they have
have
like that Justin Porter? Like, is that their number 1 weapon as a wide receiver?
Shorter might be because the other guy transferred to Maryland.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, they should get 7 wins, but I would not bet on Florida at all. Like, I don't know who they
Yeah.
have. Even their quarterback's
I mean,
not
they
that
got
good.
no, and they got Utah as an out of conference game. Now it is home, but
Yeah,
and
still.
they play. Yeah, they go to Tennessee. They go to Georgia. They go to A&M.
Yeah.
They do avoid Alabama, which helps. I mean, I see them. They got Kentucky at home. Apparently Kentucky has only beaten them like 2 times ever. So
Yeah.
I think they'll win that. South Florida at Tennessee is tough because as I mentioned on the first half of the show, I do like Tennessee a little this year because of Hendon Hooker, but that's an interesting one. I think 7 is a pretty good number for them. I could see them getting to 8.
We got some good players.
Yeah. How about so we play Auburn. Auburn's
Yeah.
at 6.5 this year. I really think that comes down if they beat us or not, but
Yeah, no, saw like a TikTok, I think, of someone like predicting Auburn like this morning, and they had them beating us, but still going 6-6. because they
Yeah,
have like
yeah,
LSU away, I think, A&M, Alabama. Like they have so many hard games in a row. I don't think they're
yeah,
getting up. So I think they could go 5-7.
yeah. I mean, they got Mercer and San Jose State to start the year, so they should be 2-0
Yeah,
going
that's
into
why I'm
Penn
nervous
State.
to play them
Yeah,
because they're gonna be confident right after those 2 blowout games.
yeah, and then they have Missouri at home. I think they win that. They have LSU at home. I don't know how to feel about LSU this year. There's a lot going on there. Then they
Yeah.
go to Georgia, to Ole Miss, and play Arkansas at home. That's a really tough stretch against 3 teams ranked in the top 21 to start the year. And then they play A&M at home later in the year, and then they finish at Alabama. So I mean
Yeah.
that could be 5 losses right there. So it does pretty much, in my opinion, come down to the Penn State game for them.
Yeah, us and LSU, because like LSU's still gonna be like a decent team, and Auburn lost like everybody, so they could easily lose that game.
Yeah.
But yeah,
All right.
I could see them being terrible this year, personally, but just because we're playing them too.
Yeah, that one I think does come down to the Penn State game for them. So
Yeah.
NC State, this is the last one we're gonna do. NC State is at 8.5, but a lot of people have them to win the ACC. So the 8.5 is interesting to me because they're also like a sexy pick to win their conference, but they're only set at 8.5. And when I look at their schedule, they play East Carolina, Charleston. Is that Charleston Southern? I don't know. Yeah, I guess that is. Texas Tech at home, UConn. They go to Clemson. They play Florida State at home. They go to Syracuse, Virginia Tech at home, Wake Forest at home, who currently doesn't have Sam Hartman, Boston
Yeah.
College, who's a good team at home, Louisville on the road, and then at UNC. I don't think UNC is what people have made them out to be the past couple of years. So their number being 8.5 to me, I don't know about you. That feels like a low one too.
Yeah, definitely, because everybody's so high up on them. I mean, I would say, yeah, they should get over that. I mean, definitely probably lose to Clemson. I think Clemson's going to bounce back and be good this year, or at least better than their like last year. I think they
Right.
like weren't that good, but they like maybe lose one game. I think they lose to Clemson, and then like I mean, Tech's always like Tech plays good, but they aren't the best team. Like they'll play you hard,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, yeah, I mean, I think they should get 9 wins. Like
Yeah, 9
UNC
or 10.
always
Yeah.
up in the air. Wake Forest will beat them if Sam Hartman's back. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. So I could see 10 because I think to lose
Yeah,
at Clemson. Yeah, I think I take the over on NC State at 8.5. I don't know. That number feels kind of low to me. I'm surprised it was that low.
yeah, that is low. I feel like too.
Yeah. So we're gonna move on. We're gonna do a couple not Clemson, a couple Heisman picks. Now we're not looking at last year's winner, Bryce Young, or CJ Stroud, who is the odds-on favorite this
Yeah,
year. But there are a couple guys I want to get your opinion on that I think are good kind of value picks in a way. So in the beginning of the show, I talked a lot about Tennessee and Hendon Hooker. I think 31 passing touchdowns, another 5 rushing last year. He is plus 6,600.
damn.
I think that is worth maybe $5-10. I don't know what
Yeah,
you think.
I would say maybe 5. Maybe
Yeah.
5. If we're not doing like a heavy or like top like 5 to like 10 people, then
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that would be a bad pick.
Yeah, and I don't know about you. I said the snake, but I'm staying away from all Ohio State guys because I feel like the 3 of them can just take votes away from each other
Yeah.
to the point where, like, no one's gonna pick between the 3 in a way. I'm just staying away from the 3 of them.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't want to bet on them to do good because like I care less about them doing good.
That is
So
true.
yeah,
All
I
right,
mean, I think I would. I like Braylon Allen from Wisconsin. He
that's who
went
I picked. Yeah,
crazy. He went crazy last year, and he's just going to be better.
he was my pick, and he has the same odds as Hooker. Yeah, 6,600. So
Yeah,
a lot of value with Allen, I think. Allen is a good pick in my opinion.
yeah, he's a
And then
beast.
one that I was surprised was a little low was Blake Corum, the Michigan. He's going to be the starting
Yeah,
running back this year with Hassan Haskins out. He has the same odds as Sean Clifford at plus 10,000.
I'm taking Clifford's odds.
All right, so you got Clifford.
I mean, yeah, their O line's going to be crazy again. Like it was already going to be good, and then they added the
Yeah.
UVA offensive lineman who was like All American. So like, they're still going to run the ball more than throw it. I mean, but Harbaugh is saying their wide receiver room stacked too. So like,
It is better this year because Henning is a year older, Andrell Anthony's a year older, and Ronnie Bell is back from injury. So I do think they are going to pass it more. But the fact that
Yeah.
he doesn't have to share carries with Haskins anymore and his O-line might be better than last year, I think his odds being that low are kind of interesting.
I mean, yeah, his odds being that low is probably BS, but like also like I'd take Robinson and Allen. Like they have such a way better chance. Even if you wanted to bet on Corum, there's no way he's going to beat them.
Yeah, that is the other thing too with the running backs. And as Nate mentioned earlier, no running back has won the Heisman since Derrick Henry did. It's been a quarterback show for the most part outside of Devontae Smith. So
Yeah.
I think if you're looking for a defensive guy, if they want to change it up, I think you start and end the conversation with Will Anderson, the
Yeah, no, that's
defensive
what I was
end.
going to say. Yeah, I'd pick him
Yeah.
just because I want to see defense, and he's good enough to actually win it.
Yeah,
with
for
being-
sure. I think he does have a legitimate chance to be the guy. If you're going to pick a guy
Yeah.
to kind of break that trend, I think he could be the guy for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I still don't think CJ Stroud. I don't think Smith Najigba will be that. Like he's good, of course. Like he's like elite, but I don't think like that offense is gonna be what everybody's expecting it to be. I
Okay.
just don't.
All
Because
right, we'll
Julian
see.
Fleming, Marvin Harrison, they're unproven.
I do think we will see them run the ball more. I know they lost Evan Pryor, but
That's like
they're
whatever.
still going to pound Henderson. Like I
Yeah.
think I do think we will see them run the ball a lot more, which will open things up for them in the passing game. And you know, it is a lot of people do think it is JSN and then everyone else, which it very well could be. So that if teams cover him, we'll see what happens. But you know, I do see where you're coming from a little bit.
I mean, yeah, it's also Ohio State, so like I also biased. Like I don't think they're that good, but like like of course he's a top player, but really he blew up after the Utah game, and they've never been that good at secondary, and like they had players out. Like that game, like it was still crazy. Like no one can put up stats like that, but still, it's not going to be like that in the Big Ten. I don't think.
All right, so we're gonna talk about two games for week one really quick. First, I guess we're gonna start with the Penn State game. Penn State -3 on the road at Purdue. Do you like the points? What do you think? Do you like the money line at -165? This is from DraftKings.
I mean, the money line isn't bad, but like if we're gonna win, which I do think we're gonna win by more than 3. Because if it's coming down to the wire, I don't think we're gonna win there in a blackout on a Thursday night. They just end up something will happen. It'll be like that, like fat lineman dude picks up the ball and scores a touchdown against us, like on Ohio State. There'll be some BS like that. No, I mean I think we're gonna beat them by like 10 plus. So yeah, I'll take the points. I'll just take either one. Either one's good, but I'll take spread.
Yeah, I do think the points are good there because I do think maybe a touchdown plus. We're gonna get into that next week, but
Yeah.
that is one to watch. So Notre Dame and Ohio State is probably the big game of week one. Florida and Utah is up there too, but this is probably the game for week one. Ohio State is a 15.5-point favorite right now. The money line is really deep. It's 660 minus 660 right now. Yeah, so you're not getting a lot of value there. But the points is, you know, the normal -110. I think it might be better off with the points. I don't see Notre Dame really keeping up here. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, no, I think Ohio State will beat them by more than 15.5. Like, I think they're going to kill them, but to bet on a game like for 15.5 points against Notre Dame, that's just like tough for me to take. Because like I could easily see that like they score like a late touchdown and then they lose by 14 and then you're screwed. But
Yeah,
I mean,
can
I
see
think
them.
Ohio State's definitely. But also, I think they're like offensive, like all American linemen got hurt in practice today, and he's questionable for the Buckeyes game now. So that's something to keep. And they have like a new quarterback. Like I really don't think they're going to be that good this year. I don't know how they're ranked like 5th in the preseason AP poll.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that earlier. I'm also kind of on the fence with them. New quarterback, new head coach. And
Yeah.
I really just don't like this offense going up against Ohio State. And they're also kind of weak on the back end of the defense with Kyle Hamilton gone and a few other guys.
Yeah.
So I do think if Ohio State is going to throw the ball around, that's a chance to do it.
They added that Northwestern player, Joseph,
they
right? Safety, I think.
I think they did. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's I guess a good replacement, but still, they're not going to be able to keep up with Ohio State.
No, yeah, I do think that one might go 17 plus points. That it's a close one, but it's a good number too, I think there.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of crazy to think about. Like in compare, like if they do beat Notre Dame by like 17 and a half, I want to see like fans' reactions because like we always are close with them, and like people always still like just stick on Franklin all the time, and like we always keep it close even when we're there. So like I want to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean it is an interesting thought that they do always keep it close. I think you always kind of take the point, give Penn State the points when they play Ohio State. They're usually within the number, so
yeah,
something we'll see what that number is later in the year. Obviously, Penn State's home, so
yeah,
we will see how that goes. All right, so that's gonna do it for this one for our full college football season preview. We're gonna be back next week. We're doing just a Penn State preview the entire time. Morgan from the Basic Blues podcast is supposed to join us, so we're looking forward to that. Nate will be back. Tyler will be back. We're doing some rankings that have to do with State College, so that's gonna be the second half of the show next week. It's gonna be another long one. So all right, for Nate earlier, JNELLY here. Thanks for watching.